Hi everyone! Today I'll be discussing the social controversy topic that I chose for this class's project. The topic that I chose was UNM's recent changes to their affirmative action policies. I decided to pick this topic as the week that we were deciding which topic we wanted to research further. I had seen an email UNM sent out regarding drafts to these current changes in their affirmative action policies. The day after, I also saw quite a bit of community backlash on social media from UNM student organizations on various social media platforms. Now I'm going to give a little bit of background information on the topic that I chose. A few months ago, on January 21st, 2025, President Donald Trump issued Executive Order 14173, revoking Executive Order 11246. Executive Order 11246 was an initiative mandating affirmative action policies nationwide. On March 31st, 2025, the University of New Mexico sent out that campus-wide email detailing drafts to policies that had previously mandated affirmative action initiatives according to Executive Order 11246. UNM stated that there was an urgent legal demand and federal pressure to enforce immediate changes to campus policies, thus resulting in a public comment period to be shortened from 30 days to 7 days. Since Tuesday, April 15th, 2025, the changes to two regent policies on affirmative action at UNM have been implemented and gone to effect. The theories that I chose to apply to this topic from our textbook are conformity and obedience from Chapter 17, culture from Chapter 13, and prejudice, discrimination, and stereotyping from Chapter 19 of Together the Science of Social Psychology. The principle of conformity and obedience seemed very fitting for this topic, as UNM has been known to conform to many federal guidelines and expectations recently, and not only with this issue, but with a lot of other current political issues in the past few years. Understanding this concept also forces us to take a look at and comprehend power dynamics and the power of authorities in our society. The swift change in drafts to our university's policies were more than likely not due to legal repercussions, funding restrictions, and possible damage to UNM's federal reputation. This theory explains these structures of power and why it is typical that we see this conformity not only in our own lives, but also institutionally. We conform to authority as they hold some type of power over us, whether that be a guardian that provides food on your table, or someone that signs off on your paychecks. In order for the University of New Mexico to maintain its funding as a federally funded institution, that would also require the administration to align its actions with government directives. The conformity to policy changes insinuates obedience to federal governing so that UNM does not face any backlash due to the actions of any opposing resistance to the federal government. This decision could also be made given our current political circumstances with funding cuts since the Trump administration has been placed back into office. This could be seen as cuts made to educational departments nationwide or funding cuts in various types of research. I also believe that culture plays a huge role in this issue, as affirmative action policies have been influenced on the basis of culture. Culture applies in many different contexts. There are cultures that are specific to a certain ethnicity, or cultures from various geographic boundaries. Culture plays a huge role into how we may interpret a situation and how we also might respond to that situation. For example, Mexican culture is very different than Mexican American culture, but because New Mexico is not only close in distance to Mexico, we also have a large Hispanic community. Our cultures may overlap in various ways. Historically, the University of New Mexico has taken pride in our diversity and progressive policies. Our institution uses phrases such as, "We are a Hispanic serving community," but with these new changes, it leads us to question, in what ways are we exactly Hispanic serving? Compared to many other places within the United States, I would argue that we are more community-oriented, possibly due to our state's demographic. I have seen in many situations that no matter the differences people may have in our community, when it really comes down to it, our community still feels like a family, especially in the more rural parts of New Mexico. UNM making these changes to their policies feels like a direct attack on the community, as UNM's former statements of advocacy for its staff and students seamlessly feel stripped away with some of their recent actions. Not only is New Mexico a minority majority state, but our campus's demographics also reflect that. The policies that were formerly benefiting the majority of our students being taken away can be perceived as a betrayal from anyone outside of the UNM administration. Due to the nature of affirmative action policies, prejudice, discrimination, and stereotyping also seem to be a fit choice to discuss for this topic. These policies were built on the foundation to address systematic inequalities. Racism did not end when slavery was abolished in 1964 with the Civil Rights Act. Till this day, prejudice and oppression is still quite common given the social and statistical evidence. Everyone has implicit bias built into their brain because we were raised in a society where open prejudices are normalized and actions of oppression are still seen. Prejudice has been built and taught to us from a young age where we have been put in a position to deconstruct and restructure that way of thinking. Given the culture of our state as well as our country's history of prejudice and discrimination, this issue also reflects how policies impact marginalized communities. As discussed in Chapter 19, humans cannot help but put everything in labels and categorical boxes. We are not in control of anything that has happened in the past. However, we can learn from ours and other people's mistakes to better improve our society. As I have stated before, affirmative action policies were initially put into place due to our country's history of prejudice and oppression on many communities. Removing these policies or making regressive changes to them suggests the downplay of minority experiences currently and throughout history. With the lack of affirmative action policies, those in power can make decisions to further oppress those who are already marginalized. These structural biases defeat the purpose of implementation for equity within our society. To me, it makes sense why so many people are upset because of UNM's actions. Overall, the decision UNM has made to retract affirmative action policies has caused tension and conflict within our campus community, on top of other statements and decisions they have made these past few years. Their decision to make changes to campus policies has reflected structural obedience, institutional biases, and other cultural implications. Looking at the different perspectives, I can see where both sides are coming from. This was, in fact, a very fascinating subject to look into for this project, and thank you all for listening to my video. I hope you have a great summer.